Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelly. Welcome back to another fashion edition. So we recently took a look at a best dressed from the Emmys list, and I only agreed with some of them. They were only alright. But now we're going to take a look at the rest of the Emmys red carpet. Let's see how the celebrities did this time. Elizabeth Debicki is sort of stuck in these almost bordering on frumpy looks, which is unfortunate. She is really tall, so I understand that comes with its own set of struggles, but this dress is just widening to her in part because of the square neckline. Square necklines are really nice contrast for curves. So if you have curves or are quite busty, a square neckline offers some nice structure and contrast to that roundness. When you're thinner or have a more rectangular frame the way Elizabeth does, it just kind of brings that angularity out more. And so this square neckline, I think, is really not helping anything, bringing a widening effect both to the chest and to her waistline. The placement of the skirt where it begins to flare out also looks to be a little bit too high and less than flattering location for her. And in part because she is tall, the neckline of the dress appears to be too low, almost like it's creating a really big space right here, because those straps are quite a bit thinner and placed farther apart at a wider set location because of that square neckline. This could have been greatly improved by creating a sweetheart neckline where the cups start above where the armpit is and come down to that point. That would have solved so much of the problems of this dress. Overall, I don't love it. It's just looking a little frumpy, unfortunately. Reese Witherspoon looks really, really sweet here. I quite like the approach of this dress. The only thing about it that I'm not loving, well, I guess there's two things. The bust looks to be sitting a little bit low. It's creating that falling down sort of illusion, and that really, the main factor that gives us that illusion is the outer corner of the bust line. If you can see boob tissue there around where the armpit is, it reads like it's falling down, like it doesn't fit you properly. If it came up just a little higher and then swooped down, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Also, because she can lean a little bit more apple at times, this location for where the skirt is starting just isn't the most flattering. If it were just a tiny bit lower or even had a bit of a princess cut to it, it would have been a lot more flattering for her. But I really like the asymmetry of the white embroidery on both the top portion and that beautiful skirt overlay. It creates movement, it creates diagonal lines. That's a very good style approach. If you don't have a super well-defined waistline, to bring in some movement and diagonals, and that can come in actual fabric draping itself or in the form of a pattern or design. Overall, I think that this one could have made some improvements, but it was still pretty nice. I love Laura Dern, but I do not love this outfit. This is kind of terrible and tragic, unfortunately. This stiffer fabric is making her look a lot more wide than she is, and it's just not a nice flow for this skirt. It looks stiff, it's hanging heavy, paired up with the off-the-shoulder neckline looking like it's just falling down and too tight. It's just not creating a flattering flow. I have mixed feelings about Rita Ora's dress. It looks ill-fitting around the bust, especially as you can see the cup sort of hanging out. It looks like it's falling down, and the fluffy, fuzzy opera coat is just adding a bit of mess and clutter to this look. One of the most tragic was Nica Collins. Not sure how to pronounce her name, I'm sorry. Nicola's dress here is tragic. It is absolutely tragic. This silver is a travesty. It should not have happened. This shouldn't be happening. The peplum, the off-the-shoulder element, it's far too stiff and bulky and overwhelming. Yes, it's creating the illusion of a better waistline, which is fine, but it definitely shouldn't be happening in a reflective metallic. This silver, this mirrored sequin sort of fabric is the wrong choice altogether. Shiny fabrics especially can be very, very widening, and they are very stimulating to the eye as well. This would have been a lot more successful in a darker matte color, but even still, the stiffness of it, the structure of it is kind of overwhelming for her. It's just not a good look. She would have been helped out by an updo for sure for this. It would have helped a little bit at least, but this is definitely in the running for worst dressed. Mindy Kaling's dress looks really, really nice from the waist down. I love the asymmetry of the beads along one side. That's really, really nice. But I feel like the off-the-shoulder element that's really, really stiff and kind of hanging farther and off of her shoulders, it's not draped softly and nicely. It's just not a look that's very flattering for most people. It's stiff, it looks costumey almost, it looks uncomfortable, and it's widening her shoulder line on top of it. So this was not successful in that regard, but I do like the direction it went. If it just had softly draped fabric across the shoulders that were actually flush with her skin, not too tight, just flush with her skin, this would have been a success. Jonathan Bailey's suit looks really nice here. I quite like the satin shirt. I think it all is tied together really nicely. He styled it well. It works well for him. It works good. This ran great risk of looking really frumpy and strange throughout the trousers, especially. The cummerbund is something that is a little bit of a risk, but he managed to pull it off. This looks good. Matt Bomer looks really nice in his sort of plum suit situation, but in his case, I don't think the cummerbund helped anything. I think he would have looked better without it because of that plum, that sort of deep purple tone is interrupted by the cummerbund because it has its own texture and fabric and it's like threatening to compete. Not fully, but threatening. And I think also for his proportions, it's creating an awkward proportion for his torso. Lose the cummerbund, this would have been a lot better. Jeremy Allen White, nothing too interesting here. Really nothing to see here. It looks fine. I think the suit jacket looks like it might be a little bit too big throughout the waist, but the trousers are a nice fit for him, and the rest of his suit looks really nice, or his tux looks really nice. I just think it's just fine. Viola Davis's dress is really pretty. I quite like this sort of two-tone monochrome situation. It's got a lot of great draping to help enhance or create more of a waistline for her, give the illusion that she has a better, more well-defined waistline than she does. I think it's really, really beautiful. But whoever rubbed this highlighter all over her arms needs to be fired. This is terrible. With her darker, rich, warm skin tone, this highlighter was a big mistake. It looks ashy. It looks like it's not the right shade of highlighter, and it has this sort of white cast, silvery ash tone to it. They should have gone for something really, really warm and less this texture. This was just horrible. I feel so bad for her. Whoever did that did not know what they were doing, or they were not used to working with people with darker skin tones, because that looks tragic. Sophia Vergara's red dress has some things going for it. I really like it from the waist down. The draping of it, you can see this sort of V shape with the gathering here around the hips, is just enhancing her more hourglass figure. Very, very flattering. But this style of cup for the bust line, I have told you guys I hate it. I always hate it. It is always tragic. It looks like your boobs are being pulled apart. You got east-west situation going on, and it looks like it's falling down because you can see boob tissue poking out over these outer corners. It just immediately reads like it's falling down and doesn't fit you well and is uncomfortable. Bad choice. She could have gone for an updo with a necklace. That would have been really nice. A nice big chunky statement necklace there. But yeah, the bust ruined the whole dress. It otherwise would have been nice. Divine Joy Randolph is wearing a sort of electric yellow draped dress. I quite like the asymmetry of it. I think it could have gone with both sides having sleeves, and then just the draping across the one shoulder would have been perhaps more flattering for her, because it's creating almost too much of a focal point of the exposed sleeveless side. It's really drawing the eye, competing with the necklace and then the draping of the fabric. But as you'll notice, this diagonal draping of the fabric and the asymmetry here is really creating some nice diagonal lines across her midsection, which is just enhancing her figure and complementing it really nicely. That combined with the flow of the fabric that doesn't have too much volume, it's not adding any sort of weight or width to her visually. It's just a really nice approach, and she looks really nice. I could do without the hood, but I mean, I guess it's just a vibe. But it definitely would have benefited from a sleeve on both sides. That would have helped the look direct the eye to stay focused on the necklace and the neckline area and the draping of the fabric, and appreciate that instead of being competing here with the sleeveless side, just drawing the eye. Lily Gladstone's dress, it didn't fully work. She has struggled a little bit finding her style on the red carpet, which is totally understandable. But this breastplate situation is so heavy looking visually because it's shiny. It has engraving on it, which is beautiful. It's beautiful in and of itself, but it's also just kind of hanging there. And it doesn't necessarily have like smooth edges where it creates flow. It almost looks a little out of place. And the general placement of it is creating a bad illusion for her bust overall. I think that the simple black dress underneath was a good idea, but they needed to work this breastplate a little bit more to make it more flattering for her. It's just unfortunate. I almost wish she would have just gone for a simple, all black, long sleeve, simple column dress without this sort of draped one shoulder element. Something that didn't have too much flow to it. Maybe like a flowy skirt would have been fine, but just a simple black long sleeve underneath this might have helped it a little bit, because here we have a little bit of competition with the exposed shoulders, the chain holding up the breastplate, the exposed arms, and the breastplate itself is kind of competing. Hair, makeup, jewelry all looked beautiful. Jodie Foster's navy blue dress was pretty, but it did take away from her figure a little bit. It added some bulk to her waistline rather than enhance her waistline, at least from this angle. I really love the color of Janelle James's dress, but the draping and the weird gathering of the fabric just looks messy. It looks like it's made of paper and it's been torn. It just didn't translate well on the red carpet. It looks too messy. Kristen Wiig's dress is really pretty and a really pretty silhouette for her. I quite like a lot of elements to it, but it looks so stiff. So stiff and heavy. I think for her body type being more rectangular and thin and tall, her frame can carry this off really nicely. She's one of the few people that could pull this dress off, but it still looks a little uncomfy and a little stiff. I don't hate it though. And her styling is great. She looks beautiful. Martin Short looks fabulous. Just a nice classic tux, and it looks to fit him really nicely. He looks happy. Quinta Brunson's organza dress is pretty. I absolutely love her hair and makeup here. It is gorgeous. Whoever did that knows what they are doing. This looks beautiful. However, organza is very pretty in person, but with the flash of photography, it looks wild. This did not photograph very well. It looks really busy. It almost looks like it's a plastic material. I don't love the bows. I don't love the pointy cups, but at least they don't look like they're falling down. I think this would have been much more impressive in person than on camera. Steve Martin also looks really nice. A classic tux. Not much to say about it. It looks to fit him really nicely. Glad to see him out there. Ella Purnell's metallic dress, I think is really pretty. I absolutely love this deep red lipstick she has on here. This is a beautiful makeup look for this dress and hair. The styling of this is magnificent. It just pops. It looks wonderful. The silver works for her too. It's not washing her out the way it sometimes can. I think it's nice. I'm not particularly drawn to it. I'm not like, wow, this is amazing. But there's no like major errors making it tragic, and her styling was really nice, so it looks cohesive. It has an impressive finish to it for sure. Andrew Scott's suit is terrible. I hate it. The lapel is so thick, heavy, and chunky. It looks like it's stuffed, like it's filled. That's a disaster. And then it's paired up with a shirt that has ruffles down the v-neck. What is he doing? This is horrible in every way. I hate it. Reba McEntire is wearing a really snazzy emerald suit with a silver disco ball style shirt underneath. This didn't quite work. It looks like something that she might wear to perform in, so, that's fine. But it's just a little bulky, a little busy. I think it would have been more successful without the silver underneath. And with a little bit better tailoring, because it is just a little bulky throughout the sleeves and the waist area. The trousers seem fine. Wrong choice for the shade of shoe as well. Lana Mayer is wearing a blue velvet peplum style dress. This is a really nice approach for her. So she does not have an incredibly well-defined waist. She has a very athletic body type, and her shoulders are a little bit wider than her hip line. So a peplum is perfect. But the thing with peplums is the placement is everything. If they start too high, you're erasing the waist and making somebody look wider and heavier than they are. If they're placed too low, they look really awkward. So a peplum has the power to interrupt your figure and make it look worse, or enhance it and make it look better. This one is nearly perfect, if not fully perfect. I think that maybe it could have come down just a tiny bit lower, like the actual peplum flare itself had been a tiny bit longer. It would have given even more of an illusion of better balance to her figure by adding just a tiny bit more volume to the hip area, and lengthening that peplum would have created better balance. But overall, this is really, really nice, really beautiful. I think the bust line area could have been improved just a tad, come up a tiny bit higher, be a little bit more polished. But overall, this is a win. She looks really, really nice. The blue velvet is gorgeous too. Eugene Levy looks really nice. The double-breasted suit jacket looks to be just a tiny bit too big. Maybe it could have been tailored in just a tad across the torso because it's looking just a tiny bit bulky. But other than that, he looks nice. Dan Levy is adding interest with his shirt here, having this asymmetrical feature. I don't personally love it, and especially in white, it almost looks like a tissue or a dinner napkin or something. It's giving that vibe. I think this would have been a lot more successful in some sort of a color, but overall I think it's fine. It looks nice, but it's not my favorite. Joshua Jackson is wearing a very nicely fitted suit. I quite like everything about his suit, but I wish he was wearing socks or loafers that did not show that he was not wearing socks. That ruined it. Anna Sawai is really beautiful in this red dress. I quite like it. See what I'm saying with the bust? If it comes up higher on the outer corner, you can get away with a lower neckline without it looking like you're falling out or it doesn't fit. However, I don't like how it has the seam under the boob. That's kind of distracting because of the way it's placed. That could have maybe been improved. But overall, this is really gorgeous. I like the tiered structured skirt. It's a bold color, so the silhouette is more simple but still has interest. Very pretty. Cheryl Lee Ralph looks spectacular in this outfit. This is very beautiful for her. It enhances her waistline. It's not looking like it's falling down. There's not too much boob peeking out over this corner here. It looks beautiful. It's very pretty. Very polished. No wrinkles. Look at that, you guys. It is possible to not have a bunch of wrinkles showing. Holland Taylor's suit, I think it's okay. I quite like the fit of the trousers and was pretty nice for her. Ricky Martin's suit is pretty nice, but I do not like the flare. They are a little bit too long, so it looks just kind of a little not great down there at the hemline. Not loving that. Julia Yeager and Paul Rudd look really, really nice. Paul Rudd's suit is very nice. It fits him well. I don't like what looks to be plastic between her boobs here on this extra deep V-neck. It almost just looks like it's probably organza or something, but the flash photography is creating shine and flashback on it, and it looks like plastic. That's gotta go. The rest of it looks fine. Yelena Yemchuk and Eben Ross Bachrach's outfits are okay. I really don't like this dress on her. It has an asymmetric feature here across the bust where there's like a little cutout just over here by this boob. That's weird. It looks unintentional. The sheerness of it isn't great either. It looks like she's got the granny panty situation happening. You know, I get it. She's trying to say that she's still got it and she's rocking it, but it's coming across a little tacky. Not great. Not as flattering as it should be. If this was lined and the focal point was more in the sheer puff sleeves, I think it could have been really successful. But this is just not working. It looks unfinished. It looks like it doesn't belong. Katherine OHara's dress is really pretty. It works really nicely for her. This nice, simple silhouette is going to be flattering, but once again, it looks like we have a granny panty situation happening. Please stop it. It is not flattering. It does not work. Line the dress. If this is lined, then it's just creating a lot of shadow because the overlay is not attached to the lining enough, and that's creating some shadows underneath. And that's not working very well either. Christine Baranski's satin dress is so beautiful. Look at this luscious gold fabric. There is not hardly a pucker or line or seam where it shouldn't be. The seam along the side you can see has no puckering. Magnificent. That is very, very challenging to do, and this looks spectacular. So luscious, so buttery. This draping, to die for. Fabulous finish. Could have gone with a different style of shoe. The color is fine, but the extreme pointed toe just elongates the foot a little too much and looks a little awkward. It looks a little flippery. Susan and Robert Downey look very nice. He's got a nice dark blue suit and she's got a red sequined gown, but it looks like it's falling down. Hike it up. Hike it up. Niecy Nash Betts looks really pretty in this outfit. I like the asymmetry we have going on. The train sort of draped off to the side and the draping throughout is really beautiful. She has been very well complimented by this dress. It's gorgeous. I think she could have gone for a nice statement pendant necklace to really spruce it up, but overall this was beautiful. Caitlyn Olsen's dress here, despite being a sheer skirt with the granny panty situation, is a lot more successful, and let me explain why this comes off so much more successful than the others. In large part, it's due to the black color. It's not as much of an assault to our senses having black versus nude. A lot of the ladies going for these granny panty sheer dresses are wearing nude panties underneath, and then it's just like, no. The black helps a lot. It's still not fabulous. I still don't like it, but it reads a lot better. And there's texture and extra fabric to that skirt. There's a lot more interest having the polka dot style sheer black fabric over the top. Even though it's sheer, it's got texture to it, and there's plenty of that fabric. It's not like something hanging more like a column dress. It's got a little bit of volume to it, and it has interest throughout the bottom. So there's other focal points involved, and there's a waistband, and the sleeves are fun. If it had just been lined to the mid-thigh, I would have loved it all the way and even put it on a best dressed list because I absolutely love the top half of this. The granny panties prevent it from being placed on any sort of a best dressed list, unfortunately. I usually love whatever Idris Elba chooses to wear, but this particular gray suit is not my favorite. The waistcoat underneath is a different style where it almost looks like overalls, and I'm not loving that. It's a little bit too overall-y, bibby, not my favorite. And then this suit jacket that he has on top of it is just kind of a little bit bulky. It's hanging a little bit low in this gray tone. I just don't think it works as well. If it had a bit of an angle to the hemline or was in black, I think it would have read more like tailcoat. But this is just not quite hitting it for me this time, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say. Tyler James Williams' option here is throwing him a little off balance. It's creating this broad shoulder, tiny skinny little hips silhouette that's just, obviously men usually have the inverted triangle shape, but this is maybe a little too extreme. He needed something with a little bit less tight fitting around his hip area to help balance him out. This is just looking almost a little too skinny of a fit across there. Amber Sade Robinson's pink number looks far too costumey. It looks like something you might wear at Halloween as a fairy godmother or something. It's just a disaster. It has far too much volume in the skirt and up here on top that it's creating a really widening effect. She looks much heavier than she is. The pink fabric along the sides is adding weight to her hip area on top of the volume up here. It's too much. Not enhancing her figure at all, throwing things out of whack. It looks ill-fitting under the boob. It's also looking wrinkly. It's reading so messy. This is an unfortunate travesty. Shouldn't have happened. I'm also not a huge fan of Olivia Williams's dress here. The tie situation looks too casual for the top, and the rest of it just is reading as wrinkly and frumpy. Connie Britton, beautiful. But the draping of this is robbing her of any degree of a waistline. It would have been so much more successful and flattering for her if this panel that comes down from the cup on one side draped across the waistline area, creating diagonal lines, but was still fitted to her. It would have given her the illusion of a well-defined waist. She's a little bit more rectangular in her figure, totally fine. This didn't do her any favors. This robbed her of the opportunity to create a more flattering silhouette, unfortunately. Abby Elliott's dress is gorgeous. This is very, very beautiful. See how this draping across the waistline gives the illusion of a more well-defined waist. It creates movement there. It prevents weight, visual weight from resting at the waistline. And then this sheer overlay across the top is a really nice way to encourage vertical line and flow, add some softness to her figure. Beautiful. Love it. The soft blue color is also gorgeous. Lisa Ann Walter went for a chartreusey sort of lime satin asymmetrical drape on top of a white column gown. Now, she is more pear-shaped, maybe leans a little bit hourglass, but she definitely has a wider point of the hips, but she is also busty. So having this chartreusey lime draping across the bust is kind of adding weight to the bust line that she doesn't benefit from. It would have been a lot more flattering if it was just a trim across the top and then had sleeves or something. But having the entire band across the waist bust line is making her boobs look even bigger and heavier to the eye. So that's unfortunate. And then the draping across the front, across her waist, while it is taking away from the visual weight of her hip line, it almost looks like it's too thin. It should have been a little thicker, a little more voluminous draping across there to really balance with the amount that is up there on the boob area, on the bust line. But it really makes her red hair pop, and she looks gorgeous. It was just not quite the right proportions and balance for her figure. Would have been much better almost if the weight and the width of those two panels were reversed, where it was less on the boob and more across the waistline. It would have been better. But overall, the execution of it looks really nice anyway. Siri Pinter looks to be struggling with her finish under this dress. She needed a nicer smoothing layer for herself here, and it looks to be a little too short. This style of column gown, you kind of want it to skim the ground. You don't really want it to stop a couple inches before and show your shoes there. It ends up with a slightly dorky look at the bottom there. But she would have benefited from better finish for sure. Otherwise, it's a nice dress. It's simple. It's pretty. Gina Torres' dress is really pretty here. This bright, hot pink is very loud and intense on its own. So not having too much volume was the way to go here. I love the asymmetry of it, the draping of it. It looks very nicely finished, well styled, and fits her well. This was great. Diane Lane's dress is too bulky for her across the shoulder. It's just not enhancing her figure enough. It's looking a little bit ill-fitting and frumpy across the boob area. I like the placement of the belt, and I love the sleeve with the slit on the inner part of the cuff there, but it's just not quite flattering her figure overall. It's a little stiff, a little heavy for her. Karen Pittman also looks gorgeous. Now, this pattern might not be for everybody. Some people might think this pink rose pattern on the black dress is a little tacky. Besides looking like it's falling down a little bit and a little too tight across the bust, I quite like the dress itself. I think it flatters her figure nicely. The jewelry is a nice option. The gloves are a little bit noisy. It might have been nice to see light pink, soft pink opera gloves instead, because the black doesn't quite match the black of the dress. So picking up one of the colors of the pink in the roses would have been a better option for matching her opera gloves to this look. Leslie Bibb's dress looks really nice here. I quite like it, at least from this angle. It's looking really nice, quite flattering. I do not like Chris Perfetti's outfit at all. It's far too clowny. The ruffles, the collar, the sheer, the volume, and then the huge giant man pants. None of it, I don't want any of that to be seen ever again. Miss Pat's dress is not very flattering for her. This extreme boat neck situation here is making it just look like she bought a dress that was 5 sizes too big. It looks like it's just far too big and falling down. It looks sloppy. It looks messy. We have extra fabric under the boob that we shouldn't have. And it just looks far too big for her overall. If she would have picked something that fit her just a little bit better, this color would have been magnificent. It just didn't work. This is making her look frumpy. It is not fair. Alan Cumming went for something very statement with his tartan and his, I don't know if it's a skirt or if it's supposed to be a kilt reference, but he's rocking it and it looks just fine. Dion Harmon went for a very intricate dress. All these details are very, very beautiful. They required a very plain and simple column skirt. This ruffle, this gathering, the draping, and the satin of the skirt are competing with everything that's going on the top half. It needed to be paired up with something very simple and plain and floor length, please. This didn't quite flow together. I feel like they look like they belong with two different things. The skirt would have been great with something else, and the top would have been great with something else. Together, no thank you. Jack Lowden looks great. Love the suit, very well fitted, fabulous, nothing exciting, but that's okay. It doesn't always have to be. Jillian Jacobs, also not incredibly exciting, but again, doesn't have to be. I quite like the peplum here. I wish it had something happening up here. This just looks far too bare for this bright red, beautiful, slightly heavy, slightly stiff dress. It needed a statement necklace or maybe even an undershirt, a simple white button down with a collar underneath this would have been a huge fashion statement. It would have been very spectacular, and with an updo if she went for that. If not, that's okay. Just maybe some sort of a necklace or something to break up the vacant space up here would have helped. The shoes I don't particularly like. Asia Naomi King's dress looks like it more so belongs at a quinceañera or a prom than on the red carpet. I'm not loving it. I quite like the idea that it's going for, and the volume and whatnot is fun, but I just feel like this would suit the VMAs or the Grammys better than the Emmys or prom. It would work for prom. Maybe it's a little too voluminous for that though. Kathy Bates, I think, had a decent idea here, wearing something that was nice and simple and plain and dark. It's going to be slimming and elongating for her, but it has so much busy with the netting and the beads and the sequins and the sparkle that it's a little overwhelming and it's adding a little bit too much noise. I think something a little simpler would have been nice, and I'm not loving this hairstyle for her. I feel like it ages her unfairly. Padma always looks fabulous and beautiful, and this is no exception. I absolutely love it. I think she could have gone for a dainty necklace if she wanted, but she didn't need it because she has her hair down and her earrings come down really low. I love this. This looks gorgeous on her. She's getting away with it even though there's a little bit of boobage on the pit area because it's so clean and tidy and well-fitting everywhere else. I give it a pass this time. Molly Gordon's dress, it's okay. I quite like the silhouette of it. I think it's flattering for her. It enhances her waistline really nicely, but I'm not loving this band at the right above where the slit is. It looks a little out of place. It's kind of distracting to the eye. I wish that had been edited a little bit. Otherwise, I think this is quite nice. She could have gone for a little necklace if she wanted, just right above, right before the cleavage began. That might have been a nice compliment here. Walton Goggins is doing his own thing. I'm going to leave it alone. I don't hate it. I like him. Liza Colon-Zayas is wearing a really loud green sequiny dress that's a little overwhelming. This is just a bit too much. The draping would have worked to help enhance her more straight waistline and figure if it weren't also in a loud, bright, shiny, shimmering texture situation. It's too much all at once. It's not working. Princess Desiree Johnson looks beautiful. This is really pretty. I quite like this. This looks to be very, very beautifully made. This is gorgeous. Bobby Burke did way too much, looks way too wrinkly. Scott Evans looks magnificent. I love these turquoise buttons on this brown suit. Gorgeous. Kit Hoover looks really nice. The seam here towards the bottom of the bust is making it look weird. That should have been fixed. It needed to just be under her boobs. This didn't quite fit her upper body the way it needed to be flattering, but the rest of it is nice. Michelle Turner's sort of peachy corset-inspired dress is just okay. I feel like this would have been better suited at a different event. It's leaving a lot of bare space up here. We needed to do something, a necklace or something, maybe really high opera gloves. I don't know. I'm not loving it. Something about it's just not translating well. Melissa Peterman, one of the worst best dressed of the night. It looks messy. It looks wrinkly. It looks amateur. The extra seams, the sheer choice of fabric has all these just messy vibes. The whole thing, horrible. Hate it. Caroline Ribeiro looks very elegant in this black and white dress with the draping. Very, very nice. Keltie Knight looks okay. This looks like it's falling down, like it doesn't fit her boobs at all, like it's squashing them to the point of pain. It's very, very wrinkly. I like the color on her though, but this gathering around the knee is just so wrinkly and messy. This is too messy. It's not okay. It's bad. It's terribly messy. Janine Reubens looks quite nice. This is a fabric that is going to look wrinkly and whatnot, but I think that they balanced it out well enough with the draping, but I do not like the way we have these wonky straps coming up and one across the side. They look unintentional and poorly done. The rest of it's okay. It had potential at least. Zuhaira Hall looks quite nice in this brown satin dress. I feel like I've seen her in this before. It's a halter neck style. It complements her straight figure quite nicely. She looks pretty. It's a pretty color. It's not too wrinkly. The whole thing generally looks well done. Definitely worst dressed list here. These people had tragedies and should have done something else entirely. But what did you think? What is worst dressed for you in your opinion? I would say best dressed is Brie Larson. We talked about her last time. If you missed that video, I will link it for you here. Thank you so much for joining me for today's fashion edition. I hope you enjoyed it and I will see you next time. Bye.